That's just running on wood at the moment. Once I get some heat in there, I'll get the coat clip. And at that point, I'll chuck these scrolls on, or what's left of the scrolls I should say, and then burn off the rest of this paint. Yeah, I get these cleaned up, ready to work on. There we go. First thing I'll do is cut out this section here and replace it with a bit of the hinge strap. So cut a bit out of the middle of that and put that in there. While that's cleaning up in the forge then, I'll have a look at these bits. That's the one I've just popped out of here. This is all that's left of the one down here. Fortunately the knackered one is the same as this, so I can just copy this one and make a new version of this. I'm just going to take a piece of wire and try and measure this. It was very nearly the length of wire. Just got to nip that much off. Okay, so we need that much material for the new pair of scrolls. I just think I could try and incorporate the original scroll in there, but I don't think I will because this is all, it's quite gnarly anyway. Give that a wire brush. So I've cut that section out, I've beveled the remains, I've beveled this bit, I haven't gone overboard with the beveling just to make a slight V in there, give the weld somewhere to go. If this was a super important structural bit I'd go much deeper with that, but it's not, so I haven't. Good. That's in and cleaned back then. Now we're on to decoration in the middle. So one bit go like that, I think. Can't quite remember if it's that way up or that way up, but I'll have to check. And then something like that. So these, the actual scrolls are quite good. But I'm going to replace 6 inches of material there in that one. And then a bit more on these. So I'll cut it back to where it's good. Make up a new bit of metal, just like I did on the scrolls at the bottom of the gate. Right, that's the first one welded up with that new 6 1/4 inch piece in it. And then I used that as a pattern and cut out all the rotten bits of the other pair. So I could then match that onto there, like that. So now I need a piece that will go from there around to there, which I'm going to make from this. Cold forge it using a straightening block and the swage block. It's because it's only a gentle curve and it's in mild steel, so that will cope with the cold forging just fine. Right, that's the second one welded as well. Next then I'll clean them both up and then they're ready to go in the frame. Before I go any further, there's been a bit of a change in the weather from hot and dry to hot and damp. So I'm going to prime the rest of the gate just to stop any flash rusting going on. One of the nice things about designing my own workshop was that I could put in this beam with a hoist on it. Is when you're getting on a bit like I am, it's very nice to have some lifting equipment. Not just have to rely on yourself. Now it's actually hanging off the ground, so I can paint both sides of that. When it's dried in, I can flip it over and do the same again, and it will get completely coated. Next then, there's 4 bits that I want to change on here. This section here, this section here, and these 2 bits. These 2 bits, I'm going to use some sections of the other bit of hinge. So I used one part of the old hinge, where is it, for that repair that's there. This bit I've put in the forge, I've burnt off the paint, I've straightened it out, and I'm going to cut it where these slots are, there, there and there. And that'll be one bit, and that'll be one bit. Also I'll weld up the holes before it goes in. The lower 2 bits here, I've just cut some 20 square steel. You can see there I've beveled the ends. And I'll cut out the bad sections and weld in the good. Keep some strength in the gate as I'll do this repair, and then I'll do the other 2. That way there's not too much of the gate missing at any one time. then with the cleaning up process. Unfortunately, this scroll here broke. Once I started messing about with it, turned out the metal was much thinner than I thought, and yeah, I just gave up. So I went back to this swage block and just made a little curve. I'm going to weld that on the end of the scroll and then reinstall that in there, and then put it onto the piece here. I'm going to use the MIG welder for this because it's not as powerful, but it's it's not as temperamental either. So yeah. Here then you can see where I was building up the missing metal by using the MIG welder at a lower setting and pumping metal in there. And then here as well, and then over there. Right, feels like we're starting to get somewhere now. And what I'm going to do for extra security is weld the scrolls where the collar's going to go. So I'll just do fairly small welds here, here, here and here, and then put the collars over them. I've also got these little diddy collars to do right down at the bottom there. So they go down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you remember then, there was some very ugly giant hinge plates on here. I'm going to replace those with something a bit more elegant. I'm going to use something like this. This is an original Victorian one. We've got the pin which I've installed at the bottom of the gate, which will go into the ground, and then this clasp will go somewhere about here. Well, not this one, but one like this. We'll go about here on the gate, and this bit will go into the wall. And what I'm going to make is very similar to this, but slightly beefier. Now, you may have noticed that this has got a round hole, whereas the gate has got a rectangular strap on it. I'm going to get around that by cutting this section out. I'm going to cut a 27mm gap in the side here and cut 27mm off this bit of old inch bar and insert that in there, and that's what the clasp will wrap around to make the hinge. I hope that makes sense. It'll all become clear. Right, let's get drilling. It might seem like a big lump of steel to drill through, and it is, but the secret is to work your way up. There we go. There it is, off the bandsaw, and a quick clean up later. That's the finished hinge. It looks slightly odd because it's a 30mm bar, the pin is 25mm. It doesn't look quite round at the end, but it'll all be fine. Yeah, this bit here then I'll take out. Next thing to do then is fully weld that bit I've just tacked, fully weld the latch on the other side of the gate, and then I can think about putting the scrolls back in. Right now, I've printed off a picture of how the gate used to look, to give me an idea of where to put the scrolls and where to put the remaining collars. Like I say, I'm not going to use as many collars as there was before. I'm not going to make up any new ones, I don't think. Because I'm going to weld them in, I'm going to weld the scrolls in rather, the collars are going to be just decorative now, and they won't have their purpose that they had originally of holding everything together. So therefore, I don't need as many. Something like that. All these are welded in now. I'm going to give it a final coat of primer everywhere, all over, and then that just leaves putting on the collars, which I'll do when the primer's dried. That means when the collars go on, even though they'll go on red hot, there'll still be some primer in there. Then I'll prime the collars, then it'll be ready for its top coat. I made a forge is on, gas forge. The gas forge is ideal for this thing because it means that the collars can't get too hot. They're only fairly small items, and it's the sort of thing in the coal forge that could well overheat them. With joints like this where I've wrapped a collar around it, I then went in, welded it in, and then I flooded it with paint. That was also the reason that I painted these scrolls before putting them in, was to give everything a good coating of the zinc before it gets fixed into position. I think I probably got more protection on this than if it had been blasted, fully assembled, and then sent off for galvanising. Now, I would be a bit iffy about galvanising something as old as this anyway. I don't think it's really suited to, the process is really suited to this sort of thing. Anyway, I'm confident it's well protected, and that's what I'm trying to get across. What I'm going to do now then is top coat it. Because I've used this zinc coating on there, I can't use the solvent paint on top of that, because the solvents in the solvent paint will soften this coating. In order to use a solvent paint, I'd have to put a barrier coat of something else on this and then put the solvent paint on top of that. Instead, I'm going to use some water-based exterior eggshell. I'm usually dead against water-based paints on metals for obvious reasons, but here it actually goes really well over this Zinger coating, so that's what I'm going to use. As always with painting, my technique is to get as much on as possible without it dripping, and then just drag the tip of the brush across, and then it'll flatten out. It flattens out better with slow drying oil paints, but yeah, same technique applied. had nearly 24 hours to dry off, but the paint's not cured, it's still soft. So at this point, were there any drips that I tried to sand, it would still just clog up the sandpaper, it wouldn't be any good at all. So I find the best thing to use is a nice sharp scraper like this one. I found it's quite the best thing for scraping off any drips or runs or anything like that. And drips and runs are inevitable when you're trying to get in as much paint as possible into intricate decoration like this. Whew. There we go, finished. I'm very happy with it. Hopefully the customer will be too. Hopefully that's been interesting. I just wanted to show a contrast between the last gate video that I made, which was restoring a cast iron gate. This one's obviously entirely wrought iron. And to show some of the ways in which I go about restoring things. So at one point this was restoration and making new stuff similar to this was my bread and butter work really. I'm kind of moving away from that now towards making things that I'll sell. But that's a story for another day. For now though, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.